Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Bombshell news from the U.S. Supreme Court. A leaked draft of an opinion shows the court appears ready to overturn Roe v. Wade. Its apparent author, Judge Samuel Alito, writes, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start.
Many questions regarding the leaked document remain to be answered. Jenna Browder brings us the explosive reaction from both sides of the abortion debate.
It's not the final word, but already this leaked draft opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade has become a flashpoint, sparking debate and protests. Overnight, a crowd gathering outside the Supreme Court. The protest coming after Politico reported it obtained documents from a person familiar with the court's proceedings.
Obviously, someone on the court, either a clerk or a justice, must have leaked this opinion in protest to the majority's views.
Those unconfirmed documents are dated in February and labeled a first draft of the opinion in a Mississippi case the court heard this winter. Its apparent author, Justice Alito, writes Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. The draft also cites Planned Parenthood v. Casey, the 1992 case that affirmed Roe. Justice Alito said to be joined by Justices Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Law professor Alan Dershowitz last night on Fox News' Hannity says he doesn't think Roe should be overturned, but believes the document is real.
I think this was leaked by a liberal law clerk who is trying to change the outcome of the case.
And Planned Parenthood tweeting, let's be clear, this is a draft opinion. It's outrageous, it's unprecedented, but it is not final. Abortion is your right and it is still legal. Jonathan Keller with the California Family Council also points out that it's far from a final document and votes could still change.
We've seen all throughout SCOTUS history that draft opinions undergo revisions in the final weeks and even days and hours before a verdict is officially rendered.
If true, it's welcome news, though, for the pro-life community. The Susan B. Anthony list writing, if the draft opinion made public tonight is the final opinion of the court, we wholeheartedly applaud the decision.
This is a hopeful day. But as I've seen many other pro-life advocates point out, this is not the end. In some ways, this is only the beginning. It is now up to us as pro-life Americans to show that we do love them both, that we love both children and their mothers.
The court is expected to rule on the case by late June or early July. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
This is a bombshell decision, and the court is finally recognizing that it doesn't have the authority to create law. When you take a step back from all the emotional debate, either pro-life or pro-choice, just take a step back. What has the Supreme Court done with this decision? What they've done is say, we don't trust our elected representatives to pass laws, and so we're going to pass a law from the Supreme Court. We're going to create a right that the Constitution doesn't mention at all. And that's what this draft opinion points out. The word is not in the Constitution. You have to do a whole bunch of legal maneuvering just to come to that conclusion that somehow within a penumbra of the rights of privacy that the famous Griswold case created, there's now a right to privacy that allows you to kill a fetus. So it's absolutely incredible the number of Supreme Court justices in their hearings over the past 4 or 5 decades that have had to go through some kind of litmus test on Roe. The most recent one, and please pay attention to what Ketanji Brown said in her hearing. She said that Roe was established Supreme Court law. She was very specific with that term, law. She didn't say it was a decision. She said it was established Supreme Court law. And I will remind her, the Supreme Court does not have legislative ability to create law. That's the problem here. When the Supreme Court takes away from the elected representatives the power to create law, you put our whole democracy at risk. Suddenly, people feel disenfranchised, and it's a group of 9 unelected judges who are making law, and there's no accountability. You can't vote the bums out. So this is, I applaud the decision, but I hope it takes over the thinking of every law school and every judge, and particularly every Supreme Court justice. Please do not create law. Judicial restraint should be the order of the day. Let the democratic process work it out. And it may take time, it may be unfair to people before you in particular cases, but it doesn't justify you seizing power that the Constitution didn't give you. When you do that, you put the entire republic at stake. And to underline this, in Politico, the very news agency that broke this story, they are calling for the abolition of the Electoral College because presidents who were elected without a majority under our constitutional system, every state has a role in the Electoral College. And if you win by an outsized majority in New York and California, somehow or other they're saying, well, you're not elected by a majority of Americans. They're trying to get rid of the Electoral College. They're trying to get rid of this filibuster in the Senate. They're trying to say Republican senators don't represent the majority of Americans. They're trying a whole bunch of things that absolutely put our democracy at risk. We need to have this restraint. It needs to be enforced, and that needs to be the #1 question of anyone sitting on the court. Will you pass laws, or will you have judicial restraint? We've got some more news from the Supreme Court, and this time a unanimous vote by all the justices to protect a Christian group's freedom of speech. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, and thanks, Gordon. The justices ruled the city of Boston violated the First Amendment when it refused to fly a Christian flag in front of City Hall. 3 flag posts sit outside the building. One flies the American flag, and another the flag of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The third is dedicated to celebrating other cultures, countries, and causes. In 12 years, the city has approved nearly 300 applications flying a wide range of flags, including a gay pride flag and the flag of Ethiopia. But it did deny a group called Camp Constitution's application to run the Christian flag up the pole. Justice Stephen Breyer wrote for the court that the city discriminated against the group because of its religious viewpoint. Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel said the court's decision means that governments can't keep Christian viewpoints out of public debate. Well, turning now overseas, Israel is demanding an apology from Russia after offensive remarks by the Kremlin's chief diplomat, calling Jews anti-Semitic and claiming Adolf Hitler had Jewish heritage. As Chris Mitchell reports, the incident risks an already fragile relationship between Israel and Russia.
Just days after Israel remembered 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust by Adolf Hitler, Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov said the Nazi leader was part Jewish.
If I remember correctly, I may be wrong, but Hitler also had Jewish origins, so it doesn't mean absolutely anything. For some time, we've heard from the wise Jewish people that the biggest anti-Semites were Jewish.
The statement shocked Israelis and brought swift and widespread reaction. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid both condemned Lavrov's comments.
The remarks of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are an unforgivable scandal. Hitler was not from Jewish descendants, and the Jews did not kill themselves during the Holocaust. We make every effort to keep good relations with Russia, but there's a limit. This time, the limit has been crossed. The government of Russia needs to apologize to us and to the Jewish people.
Israel rebuked Russia's ambassador, while Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky wondered if Israel would go even further.
So the question is whether the Israeli ambassador stays in Moscow knowing their new position, whether their relations with Russia remain as usual. Because all of this is not accidental. The words of the Russian foreign minister, a great connoisseur of Hitlerism, are not random.
Middle East analyst Eli Kohanim told CBN News Lavrov's comments struck a chord among the Jewish people.
First of all, he has his facts wrong to try to suggest that Adolf Hitler has any kind of Jewish lineage in him. And secondly, it is so deeply offensive to the Jewish people, both in Israel and around the world.
Kohanim says Russia is trying to justify an unjustifiable war.
And the way that they do that is they keep going back to this claim that they are denazifying Ukraine. And what it shows us is that they'll basically say or do anything in trying to justify what they just cannot.
The diplomatic confrontation also presents a military challenge for Israel. Russia controls the airspace over Syria, and Israel depends on Russian cooperation to strike Iranian targets inside Syria. Without Russia's permission, it could see Iran's military presence grow dramatically on its northern border. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. Russia's foreign minister says the conflict in Ukraine could escalate into World War III. That warning comes as the United States is increasing arms shipments to Ukraine, and the United Kingdom estimates more than 25% of Russia's army in Ukraine is, quote, combat ineffective. This as Ukraine is now claiming to have sunk 2 more Russian ships in the Black Sea. And a senior U.S. official tells the news outlet Axios the Russian army's progress in the eastern Donbass region is minimal at best. Meanwhile, U.S. diplomats are returning to Ukraine, Monday making a day trip to the western city of Lviv with hopes of returning to the capital, Kyiv, in coming weeks.
We expect to continue to do day trips for the next week or 2, and then we very much hope that the conditions will permit us to go back into Kyiv by the end of the month.
Russia is stepping up attacks in western and central Ukraine, targeting arms shipments headed for the front line. While millions of Ukrainian refugees have fled into neighboring Poland, many are arriving hungry and with little money. That's why CBN's Operation Blessing is on the border, providing them with food and other necessities.
Right now, we're at the OB warehouse in Medica that is close to the border to Ukraine. We're trying to fulfill a lot of boxes with food. The refugees are coming here just with the bags, with the clothes, and sometimes with no money. So we're trying to help them with a lot of food to work with a network of churches and refugees so we can give them this kind of supplies so they can help the people that are coming to their places right now. A lot of volunteers are trying to fulfill these boxes so they can have like a healthy supplies for at least 2 weeks. This will help a family of 4 people. So we're really glad of all the help that you're providing us. Thank you for everything that you do for us.
Such meaningful help. Gordon, back to you.
Well, that thank you goes from that warehouse facility in Poland all the way to your home if you're part of the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. We're not new to this area. We've been in Ukraine for over 30 years. Orphans Promise has been working for over 20 years. There are all the different Orphans Promise centers. That warehouse is just across the border in Poland. And you're part of this. You're part of this ongoing effort to help the refugees, to those who are in need in place in Ukraine, because we're shipping food and supplies back into Ukraine. But we're also helping the millions who are leaving, and they need our help. They have no food, they have no water, they have no shelter, they have nowhere to go. They need help because of this horrible war. And we want to stand with them and let them know we love them, and God loves them too. You can be a part of it. All you have to do is call us, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to the Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line. You can text OB Crisis to 71777, or you can go to cbn.com. We have a lot of different ways you can give. Do it now, 1-800-700-7000.